All right, so today we're diving into a book that's been around for ages, but people still talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's How to Win Friends and Influence People
It's a classic.
by Dale Carnegie.
Hmm.
And, whether you are trying to, get ahead at work, or maybe things are a little rocky at home with family, or you just want to, be a better person,
Yeah.
we're going to kind of take apart the book
Yeah.
and see what it has to offer all these years later.
Yeah, it's interesting because this book, it's not just like some theory.
Right.
Carnegie,
Yeah.
he actually used these principles himself. Like he went from
Really?
like basically nothing to being really successful.
Yeah.
And he used these ideas to do it.
Oh.
So he was proof that this stuff works.
Wow, that's really compelling. So it's not just like some, professor talking about something he's never actually done.
Yes,
This
no.
is something that he actually lived. Wow, that's really cool. One of the things that really jumped out at me reading this was how much emphasis he puts on relationships.
Yeah.
Like he's really saying that
Yeah.
being good with people is more important than being really good at your job.
Absolutely. And that's really where that section on handling people comes in.
Okay.
And he starts off with this principle that maybe seems a little weird at first,
Okay.
which is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now, that doesn't mean that you just let people walk all over you. But it does mean we should think differently about how we deal with conflict.
So instead of blaming people or,
Right.
making them feel bad, what's the...
Well, he gives this great example
I've
in the
heard that.
book. Like, imagine you have a coworker and they interrupt you all the time in meetings.
Yeah,
And instead of saying, you're always interrupting me, it's so rude,
right.
try saying something like, I really appreciate your thoughts, but it's hard for me to fully say what I'm thinking when we're both talking.
Yeah.
Maybe we could try taking turns.
Oh, so it's more about understanding and finding a solution that works for everyone
Exactly.
rather than making the other person feel...
Yeah, and less defensive.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
And that kind of leads into that next big technique, which is give honest and sincere appreciation.
Okay.
And this speaks to something really basic that we all want, which is to be appreciated,
Recognition.
Yeah, we want to feel validated, but it has to be real.
Mm-hmm.
People can tell when you're just
Right.
giving them fake flattery.
Totally. Yeah, you can spot that a mile away.
Yeah,
So no showering people with empty praise.
exactly.
But what is it about this that why does this work?
Well, think about it. When somebody says, hey, good job,
Yeah.
and they really mean it, your brain actually releases dopamine,
What?
which is that feel-good chemical, and it makes you want to keep doing those
Literally.
positive behaviors, and it makes you feel closer to that person.
So it's not just about being nice.
Right.
It's like you're influencing the other person's brain chemistry.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Another technique that really caught my eye was arouse an eager want in others. And that sounds a
Yeah.
little bit manipulative when you first hear it, but
Yeah.
there's got to be more to that, right?
Yeah, it's not about tricking people.
Right.
It's about understanding what makes them tick, what motivates them, and then figuring out how you can ask them to do things
Okay.
in a way that lines up with what they want.
So can you give an example?
Sure, let's say you need help from a colleague on a project. Instead of just saying,
Yeah.
hey, can you do this for me? Try saying something like, I know you're amazing at data analysis,
Okay.
and I think your insights on this would be so valuable. Plus, it'd be a great way for you to show off your skills to the higher ups.
Oh, so it's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly.
It's not just you getting what you want, but the other person is getting something out of it too.
Right, and that's something you see throughout the book. It's understanding what makes people tick and using that to build those better relationships and to get where you want to go.
So far we've been talking about techniques for handling other people.
Right.
But I'm also really interested in what he says about
Yeah,
making yourself more likable. I mean, who doesn't want to be liked, right?
of course.
And he's got 6 strategies for this.
Yeah.
And some of them are pretty surprising.
Oh, I'm curious.
Okay, so the first one is the power of a genuine smile.
Okay.
And it might sound too simple, but he really believes in it.
Yeah.
It's not just being polite. It's actually,
Yeah.
it creates a biological response in you and the other person.
It totally does. There are studies that show that smiling actually releases endorphins,
Really?
not just in the person smiling, but in the person seeing the smile.
Wow.
So it's this little boost of happiness.
Oh, so it's like a contagious happy bug.
Exactly.
I never thought of it that way. What's another one of those surprising?
Okay, so this one might seem kind of obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people mess it up
Okay.
remembering names.
Oh, yeah.
So Carnegie, He tells this story about this guy who was super popular at this convention just because he remembered everybody's name.
Wait, everybody?
Yeah, like over 500 people.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds impossible, but it shows you how powerful that simple thing is.
I guess when someone says your name,
yeah,
it makes you feel like...
you feel seen.
Seen, yeah.
Like they care.
Like you matter.
Yeah, you're important to them.
So instead of saying, hey, you, or hey, man, or whatever,
yeah,
learn people's names and use them.
It's like the key to making a real connection.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Now, besides smiling and remembering names, he's got 4 more ways to be more likable.
Lay 'em on me.
Okay. So be genuinely interested in other people.
Okay. Be
a good listener. Talk about things they're interested in.
Okay.
And make them feel important.
Out of all of those, which one do you think is like the most important for really?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
They're all really important.
Yeah.
But I think being genuinely interested in other people, that's like the foundation.
Right.
Because if you actually care about the other person, then all those other things, they kind of just flow naturally.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about shifting your focus from like, what can I get from this person to what can I learn about this person?
Yeah.
And that curiosity. I think that's what sparks that connection.
Totally.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, like how to handle difficult people, how to make ourselves more likable.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to this book.
I've only just scratched the surface.
Exactly.
Welcome back. Before we jump into more of Carnegie's advice, I want to know what's stuck with you so far.
You know what really hit home for me is that idea of giving sincere appreciation.
Oh, yeah.
I think we forget how much little things like that
Yeah.
can really make someone's day or even like motivate them to do better work.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like such a small thing, but it makes a big difference.
Totally.
It reminds us that we're not just robots, you know? Like we all need that connection. And you know, that actually ties in really well with another principle.
Okay.
Become genuinely interested in other people.
That seems like a no-brainer, but it's so easy to forget in our crazy busy lives.
Right? We get so caught up in our own stuff that we forget to just like slow down and actually connect.
Yeah.
But think about the people who've really made a difference in your life.
Yeah.
They're probably the ones who made you feel like they really get you.
Absolutely. Like you feel seen.
Yeah. Seen and heard.
So how do we do that? Is it just about asking more questions?
It's more than just asking questions. It's about really listening.
Okay.
Putting aside your own thoughts and just trying to see things from their point of view.
Okay, so trying to find those like commonalities and build from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It takes effort, but it's worth it. You build stronger relationships. You become more influential. And honestly, I think it makes you a happier person.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so now let's get into something I've been really curious about. Carnegie's 12 techniques for winning people to your way of thinking.
The persuasion playbook.
Yeah. But before we dive in, do you ever worry about the ethics of all this? Like, can you be persuasive without being manipulative?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's something Carnegie talks about too. He says, real persuasion isn't about tricking people.
Okay.
It's about finding that common ground, understanding where they're coming from, and presenting your ideas in a way that makes sense to them.
So it's about finding a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. And that's where these techniques come in. They're like tools to help you have those conversations better, to like build bridges instead of walls.
I like that. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of these techniques. One that jumped out at me was avoid arguments.
Oh, yeah.
Which seems counterintuitive when you're trying to convince someone of something.
I know, right? But Carnegie's point is that most arguments are pointless. Like they don't actually change anyone's mind.
They just make people dig in their heels even more. He gives this example of a salesman who, instead of arguing with a customer who didn't like his product, he just says, I'm curious. Why do you feel that way?
Oh, so he's trying to understand like the root of the problem.
Exactly. You got to figure out why they're resisting instead of just trying to force your view on them.
So it's about dialogue, not like a battle.
Right. And who knows, maybe by listening to them, you'll learn something that'll help you improve your own approach.
That's a really good point. It totally shifts the whole dynamic. Okay, what about this one? Let the other person feel the idea is theirs.
Oh, that's a good one.
It sounds kind of sneaky though, right?
It can be, but it doesn't have to be manipulative. It's more about guiding the conversation.
Okay.
So that they come to the conclusion you want on their own.
So it's like you're the architect, but they're the one building the house.
Exactly. And because they feel like it was their idea, they're going to be way more excited about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. We all want to feel like we're in control. Okay, hit me with another technique. What else is in Carnegie's playbook?
All right, how about this? Begin in a friendly way. Super simple.
Yeah.
But it makes a huge difference.
I mean, we all know a smile and a friendly hello can go a long way.
Right. But we forget it all the time when we're stressed or trying to get something done.
Yeah, we get so focused on the task at hand that we forget about building that connection.
Exactly. But who are you going to listen to more? Someone who makes you feel good or someone who makes you feel bad?
Definitely someone who makes me feel good. It's like you have to build that trust before you can really influence someone.
Totally. All right. We've talked about winning people to your way of thinking. But what about changing people?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, we all know people we wish were a little different.
Right. It's a delicate situation.
Yeah.
But luckily, Carnegie's got some advice on how to handle it.
All right, so we're back and ready to tackle like one of the toughest parts of this book.
Oh, yeah.
How to actually change people.
Without like making them mad or,
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, it's like walking on eggshells.
It is. But Carnegie, he gives us some good tips.
Right.
One that I really like is praise before critique.
Okay.
So instead of jumping right into what they're doing wrong, you start by saying something nice, like what they're doing well.
It's like that sandwich technique.
Right? Yeah, kind of. But it works because when someone starts by saying nice things about you, it builds trust. You're more likely to listen to their suggestions because you know they're coming from a good place.
It takes the sting out of the criticism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like they actually care.
So it's not just about being manipulative.
Right.
It's about making the other person feel heard.
Yeah.
Before you give them the tough feedback.
Exactly. And he has another good one that goes along with that.
Okay.
Make the fault seem easy to correct.
Right.
When we feel like we can't do something or that it's too hard, we just give up.
But if it seems easy, then we're more likely to try.
So it's about breaking down those big, scary changes into smaller, more manageable steps.
Exactly. And it's about giving people the confidence that they can actually do it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how Carnegie really gets into the psychology of all of this.
Oh, he was so ahead of his time.
It's not just like some feel-good advice. It's like he understands how our brains work and how to use that to get the results you want.
And you know what's amazing is how relevant all this still is. I mean, sure, technology has changed the way we communicate, but people are still people.
Right. We still want the same things like connection and appreciation and all that.
Exactly. A nice email can still make someone's day just like a mean text can ruin it.
Totally. So how do we take all this wisdom and apply it to today's world? Like, how do you smile in an email?
Yeah, that's the challenge. But I think it's about adapting those same principles to the way we communicate now.
Okay.
So instead of a smile, maybe you use emojis. Or you write your message in a way that feels warm and genuine.
So it's like finding those digital equivalents to those old school techniques. It's still about connecting on a human level, even if it's through a screen. So as we wrap up this deep dive on how to win friends and influence people, I think the big question is how do we take all these ideas and actually use them in our lives, especially with all the technology and stuff we have now?
That's a great question. And I don't think there's one easy answer. But I think it starts with being curious and be willing to adapt. And never forgetting that at the end of the day, we all just want to connect with each other.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. Well, that's it for our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you learned some new tricks to make your relationship stronger and your communication more effective.
Yeah, go out there and make some friends.
Until next time, keep those conversations going and those connections strong.